The mahogany conference table reflected afternoon sunlight streaming through Crawford and Associates' executive windows. 5 family members sat discussing our late grandfather's $47 million estate, while 3 lawyers shuffled through inheritance documents. "Let's be realistic," my brother Marcus announced, adjusting his silk tie. "Sarah's government job barely pays rent. She shouldn't receive equal distribution with those who've built real wealth." Murmurs of agreement circled the table. My sister Rebecca nodded, her diamond bracelet catching light. "Marcus owns 3 restaurants. I run a successful design firm. David's medical practice generates substantial income. Sarah files papers for bureaucrats." "Poor dear," Aunt Patricia added with theatrical sympathy. 34 and still working for civil service wages. Grandfather would want his money going to family members with proven business success. I sat quietly in my navy blazer, listening with detached amusement. They had no idea my civil service wages came from the State Department's Intelligence Bureau, where my position as Deputy Director of International Security Analysis required top-secret clearance and compensation exceeding most CEO packages. Estate Attorney Jonathan Crawford cleared his throat. "The will specifies equal distribution among grandchildren, but we can discuss modifications with unanimous family agreement." "Sarah's never contributed financially to family expenses," Marcus continued. "When grandfather needed home care, who paid? When the vacation house needed repairs, who covered costs? Not the government employee living paycheck to paycheck." The irony was suffocating. For 8 years, I'd quietly subsidized family expenses through wire transfers they assumed came from grandfather's accounts. Marcus's restaurant expansion, Rebecca's studio lease, Patricia's luxury car payments. All funded through my discretionary budget for maintaining deep cover identities. "Government pensions are notoriously inadequate," Rebecca added with false concern. "Maybe Sarah should receive a larger share to compensate for her career limitations." David tried gentler approach. "Sarah chose public service over profit. Admirable, but grandfather built his fortune through enterprise. The inheritance should reflect those values." What they didn't know was that grandfather's fortune had grown exponentially due to international trade intelligence I'd provided during weekly phone calls. When I'd mentioned complications with foreign markets, or concerns about emerging restrictions, he'd listened with understanding of someone who recognized valuable insider information. "Sarah," Patricia addressed me directly, "surely you understand that dividing $47 million equally among people with vastly different financial capabilities doesn't make sense?" "I understand your perspective," I replied diplomatically, checking my secure phone. The message confirmed what I'd expected. Diplomatic escort arriving 3:30 p.m. for emergency consultation. Full State Department protocols authorized. Crawford shuffled documents uncomfortably. "The will is quite specific about equal distribution, but family agreement could modify." "We need realism," Marcus interrupted. "Sarah's government salary probably caps at $60,000 annually. Giving her $7 million would be like handing lottery tickets to someone who's never managed serious money." My actual salary was classified, but substantially exceeded Marcus's restaurant profits. More importantly, my operational budget for international security analysis dwarfed the entire family inheritance. "Perhaps a trust arrangement," Rebecca suggested, "with responsible family members managing Sarah's portion until she demonstrates financial competency?" The condescension was breathtaking. While they'd built small businesses with my covert support, I'd been managing intelligence operations that influenced international markets and prevented global security crises. My phone buzzed. "Motorcade eat 8 minutes. Ambassador requests immediate consultation on classified Middle East developments. Security detail includes diplomatic protection service." I glanced out windows and could see black vehicles positioning around the building. In 8 minutes, my family would discover their poor sister, who works for the government, held security clearances requiring presidential authorization. "Sarah," Marcus said with finality, "we're trying to help you understand that equal inheritance doesn't work when family members have such different success levels." I smiled and gathered documents. "I think that assessment is about to change." Build up, 700 words. The family continued estate planning while I monitored secure communications. The emergency consultation involved rapidly developing Middle Eastern oil market manipulation requiring immediate State Department response. The responsible approach, Patricia explained to Crawford, is recognizing Sarah's limitations shouldn't penalize the rest of us. 7 million requires sophisticated financial management. David nodded thoughtfully. Perhaps guidelines for how Sarah's inheritance should be invested. Professional management to protect her from costly mistakes. I'd been managing international financial intelligence for 12 years, analyzing market trends influencing global oil prices, currency fluctuations and trade agreements. The costly mistakes they worried about were decisions I helped prevent globally. Sarah's never shown interest in investment strategies, Rebecca observed. When we discuss portfolio management or business expansion, she sits quietly, clearly not equipped for serious financial decisions. I'd sat quietly because discussing actual work would violate federal security laws. Their investment strategies were elementary compared to analyzing intelligence that moved international markets by billions daily. My phone displayed encrypted update. Diplomatic protection securing building perimeter. Ambassador's emergency consultation involves classified oil intelligence requiring immediate analysis. Full protocols in effect. Crawford attempted diplomatic mediation. Perhaps we could discuss compromise addressing everyone's concerns while respecting the will's intentions? The will is outdated, Marcus declared. Written when Sarah was in college and we thought she might develop business sense. 12 years of government employment proves otherwise. Marcus's restaurants had thrived because I'd provided early warnings about food safety regulations and supply chain disruptions. Rebecca's design clients included foreign nationals whose backgrounds I'd personally vetted. They'd built success on foundations I'd quietly provided. Look at her clothes, Rebecca whispered loudly. Off-the-rack government employee wardrobe. When did Sarah last wear anything not purchased at department stores? My department store wardrobe consisted of diplomatic attire selected for international functionality and security protocols. The navy blazer alone cost more than Rebecca's designer handbag, but explaining that would require revealing classified diplomatic dress codes. Patricia leaned forward conspiratorially. Marcus, remember when Sarah claimed she couldn't afford Christmas vacation with us? Government workers simply don't earn enough for luxury travel. I'd actually spent Christmas conducting classified negotiations in Geneva, helping prevent international incidents that could have destabilized European markets. Their luxury travel paled compared to flying State Department aircraft for emergency diplomatic missions. Grandfather always worried about Sarah's future, David added sadly. He used to say she needed practical guidance from more successful family members. Grandfather had understood exactly what I did. Our weekly conversations involved me providing intelligence assessments he'd used to protect investments from international market volatility. He'd worried about my safety, not my financial future. Through conference room windows I could see the diplomatic motorcade taking positions. 3 black SUVs with State Department markings, a communications vehicle, and security detail including diplomatic protection service agents. Inheritance distribution should reflect current realities, Marcus concluded. Sarah receives modest portion appropriate for someone in her position, while those with proven financial success handle substantial assets. Crawford glanced nervously toward windows as motorcade became visible. Is there some government event happening nearby? Probably a visiting foreign minister, I said casually. Downtown hotels often host diplomatic meetings. Patricia sniffed dismissively. Sarah would know about those things working in whatever government office she's in. Department of State, I corrected quietly. Same thing, Rebecca waved dismissively. Federal bureaucracy is federal bureaucracy. My phone displayed final message. Diplomatic detail ready for extraction. Ambassador waiting for intelligence briefing on classified Middle East oil market threats. State Department helicopter standing by for immediate transport. The irony was perfect. While my family debated my limitations and lack of financial sophistication, the State Department was preparing to extract me for emergency consultation that could influence global oil markets and international security policy. Sarah, Marcus said with practiced condescension, we want you understanding we're looking out for your best interests. 47 million divided 5 ways means equal amounts, but not everyone can handle equal responsibility. I stood and gathered documents as diplomatic security agents approached the building's main entrance. I think you're about to discover that responsibility takes different forms. Through windows I could see agents positioning for high-security extraction. My family was about to learn their poor sister who works for the government required presidential-level security clearances. Revelation 450 words. The conference room door opened to admit 2 men in dark suits whose bearing immediately commanded attention. Diplomatic Security Service agents carried the unmistakable authority of federal law enforcement trained to protect high-ranking officials. Deputy Director Richardson? The lead agent's voice cut through estate planning discussion. Ambassador Williams requires your immediate consultation on classified intelligence regarding Middle Eastern oil market threats. The silence was absolute. 5 family members stared in stunned confusion as the agent presented credentials identifying him as State Department Diplomatic Security. Deputy Director? Crawford's voice came out as barely a whisper. The motorcade is prepared for immediate transport to the embassy, the second agent continued professionally. The Secretary of State is standing by for your intelligence assessment. Marcus's face had gone completely white. Sarah, what are they talking about? Deputy Director of International Security Analysis, I replied calmly, accepting classified briefing materials from the lead agent. I analyze intelligence that influences international markets and global security policy. Rebecca's mouth opened and closed soundlessly as the magnitude of her mistake became apparent. Ma'am, the agent continued, the emergency consultation involves oil market manipulation that could destabilize the global economy. Your analysis is required immediately. Patricia found her voice first, though it cracked with disbelief. Sarah works for the Secretary of State? My intelligence assessments inform policy decisions at cabinet level, I confirmed, while reviewing classified briefing summary on my secure tablet. Today's consultation involves preventing economic warfare through oil market manipulation. David stared at the diplomatic security detail with obvious shock. The government sent armed guards to escort you? Standard protocol for top-secret clearance holders during emergency consultations, the lead agent explained. Deputy Director Richardson's security classification requires presidential authorization. Crawford shuffled through estate documents with trembling hands. Sarah, your listed occupation says, government analyst. You never mentioned. My actual position is classified, I replied. Revealing specific details about intelligence work violates federal security laws. Marcus finally found his voice. The salary, you said government employees barely make enough. My compensation package is classified information, I said simply. But senior State Department positions exceed most private sector salaries. The second agent checked his watch. Ma'am, the ambassador is waiting. The Middle East situation requires your immediate analysis. As I gathered materials, Patricia asked the question consuming all of them. Sarah, how long have you been, what you actually are? 12 years, I replied, standing to leave with security detail. The same 12 years you've been assuming I was unsuccessful. Rebecca's voice was barely audible. The family expenses, when we needed money, came from my discretionary operational budget, I confirmed. Maintaining cover identities sometimes requires subsidizing family members' businesses. As I walked toward the diplomatic motorcade, I could hear Marcus's voice breaking. She outranks people we see on television. Resolution, 240 words. 2 weeks later, I returned to Crawford's office for final estate distribution. The family gathering was notably subdued, with none of the previous arrogance that had marked our initial meeting. The inheritance distribution is complete, Crawford announced, his demeanor markedly different since learning my actual position. $7 million to each grandchild as originally specified. Marcus sat quietly, his restaurant empire now understood to have thrived due to my covert support. Sarah, he said hesitantly, we owe you an apology we can't possibly make adequate. Apologies aren't necessary, I replied professionally. You made logical assumptions based on limited information. Rebecca's design firm had also benefited from my classified knowledge of foreign nationals. We had no idea, she whispered. All those years we thought, we were so wrong. Patricia, whose luxury lifestyle had been partially funded by my discretionary budget, couldn't meet my eyes. When you said you filed papers for bureaucrats. I analyze intelligence for cabinet-level officials, I corrected gently. The distinction matters in government work. Crawford presented final documents with obvious respect. Deputy Director Richardson, your inheritance is fully processed. The State Department's security requirements have been noted for all future transactions. As I signed papers, my secure phone displayed another priority consultation request. International intelligence work continued regardless of personal financial matters. The family's financial security was always part of my operational considerations, I said, gathering documents. Walking toward my State Department vehicle, I reflected that sometimes protecting people meant letting them underestimate you until truth could finally be revealed safely.